You're listening to episode 3. This is our Year Knicks Fan Podcast.
Hey guys, this is Jason. If you're enjoying our content, please follow us on our social media accounts. Our Year Knicks Podcast on Instagram and NY This Is Our Year on Twitter. Thanks.
Knicks down 3. Should the Bulls foul? No. Anthony for 3. Bang! That one goes down. This game is tied.
To This Is Our Year, a New York Knicks podcast. Here are your hosts, Jason and Joel.
Welcome, guys, to episode 3. This is our Year Knicks Fan Podcast. I'm Joel. I'm joined by Jason. We're super excited for this episode. If this is your first time listening to us, welcome. This is a podcast that's dedicated to the Knicks, but also dedicated specifically to fans. So, Jason, what do we have in store for our listeners today?
Yep, just like you said, Joel, I'm super excited for this episode as well. We're going to talk a lot about free agency and the future, and we have a lot to look forward to, Joel, as Knicks fans. And that's what this episode is going to be about. Regardless of what happens, this is going to be exciting. It's going to bring out a lot of emotions, and one way or the other, it's going to give us a lot to talk about, and that's always a good thing.
Absolutely. And I think that the mindset of every Knicks fan should be of optimism. I know it's hard to be optimistic. This is one of the reasons I'm so excited about this episode. For the first time in a very long time, I'm super optimistic that we are going to land 2 big free agents, Jason. I am praying to the basketball gods that we can land the number 1 pick. We're going to go over some scenarios today. We're going to speculate on who we think the team should actually get versus who they might get. And I think that that's something that a lot of Knicks fans can resonate, because pretty much we are all thinking the same thing. I know who the fans want. We'll get it and talk about it in the segment. And today is going to be a very good episode, Jason, for sure.
That's right. And with that said, let's get right into it.
This Week in Knicksland.
All right, guys, welcome to This Week in Knicksland. It's our weekly segment analyzing and focusing on the team's performance for the week. This episode is going to be a little different, as we will be summarizing kind of like our season. And unfortunately, Jason, it was another disappointing season. We finished with a 17-65 record, which is worse in the league. But we're optimistic. I think that's the mood I want to keep going in this episode. Optimistic moving forward as we prepare for an exciting offseason, Jason.
That's right. I mean, for the first time that I can remember, not only do we have cap space for more than 1 max contract, we also have our first round pick. And it's a potential first overall first round pick, which, that can actually turn into, probably a transcendent player in Zion Williamson. So
Zion. That's what we're hoping for, Jason. And it's like in the back of my mind, and I think about it every day. I just hope I'm not disappointed, but hopefully we do land this number 1 pick. So guys, before we start, we're going to talk a little bit about Knick news. Since we last recorded episode 2, a little bit of things have gone down. And one of the things that happened in Knicks land, or maybe not in Knicks land, but
Knick land.
An ex-Knick land, I would say. But Kristaps Porzingis, Jason, man, made the front papers as a woman came out accusing KP of allegedly raping her. According to Tina Moore of the New York Post, she reported that the woman told the police at around 2 a.m. on February 7, 2018, Porzingis visited her at her apartment in Midtown building where they both live and invited her back to his place. According to ESPN, the woman later told the Knicks that she went to Porzingis' apartment to get an autograph, or so she claims. Yeah. And once there, she told the police that KP allegedly raped her, Jason.
Yeah, and the weird part is that according to multiple reports, the woman told the police that she had been waiting about 14 months to come forward with these allegations. And the reason why was because Porzingis pledged to purchase her silence by giving her $68,000 to put towards her brother's college tuition. What?
Yeah, that's random. Tuition?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, then Porzingis apparently then, I guess, didn't follow through with that agreement. And, the Post basically reports that that's kind of why that triggered her to then after 14 months report, or like I don't know.
This is such an odd situation, and I feel like this keeps happening in society where it's a tough situation, Jason. I mean, I'm dumbfounded that it took so long first for her to come out. And so I'm a little skeptical here and there. These types of allegations have to be taken seriously. I'm one of those guys who actually believes that these types of allegations have to be taken for sure seriously.
Yeah.
But, taking this long, it's just a little weird. I don't know if this even could have maybe been a reason why we ended up trading him. I don't know if that played a role.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, we live in a society where you're often seen guilty until proven innocent.
Right.
And I mean, the reason I bring this up is because it doesn't even matter if there's any truth to this report. The damage is done to his reputation.
Yeah. People are going to talk about that.
Yeah.
Sure.
And don't get me wrong. If Porzingis is guilty, he definitely needs to be held accountable. And
I agree.
But it's definitely possible that the Knicks, decided, what, like there's some, stuff coming down the pipes, and that it's going to look bad, and let's just get rid of the guy.
Right.
And
So
like you said, though, I'm skeptical, and I think that Porzingis wanted out, but I wonder if he was just trying to run away from this also.
Could be. And I think that management got ahead of the problem in a sense and said, he already doesn't want to be here, and now these allegations are about to come out. Maybe that would have brought a little bit of bad publicity to the team. So maybe that's one of the reasons why they shipped him out. I'm not saying it's the only reason, of course not, but that could have played a role.
Definitely. I mean, yeah. And moving forward, I guess let's talk about Patrick Ewing. He was announced as our representative at this year's NBA lottery. How do you feel about that?
Man, that is awesome news. I think that he's an underappreciated Knick, not by the fans, but I would say by management in the last
exactly.
The way things went down with him and how he got traded.
Yeah.
I just think that this is awesome. It makes me feel a little hopeful that luck is going to be on our side. The last time we were awarded the number one pick was actually when we picked Patrick Ewing. And I think it's just fitting that he's representing the team, and hopefully he can bring us some good luck. I have my fingers crossed. I never wanted the number one pick more than I do this year, specifically because of Zion. And we are going to need all the luck that we can get, Jason. And, we haven't landed the number one pick since we drafted Patrick Ewing. And we've been in the lottery 16 times since 1985, which is kind of ridiculous that luck has not been on our side at all.
That's ridiculously bad luck. But I mean, this is definitely a feel-good story, and I just hope it has a happy ending. And unfortunately, and I try to be positive like you, Joel, but I have this defense mechanism that's expecting the worst. And I hope this is just my, reverse psychology on myself, and that we actually finally do pull through and get this first overall pick.
No, for sure. And I've told you this before. I'm not watching the NBA lottery this year. I watch it every single year. Every single time we're in the lottery, I watch, and I'm disappointed. I was disappointed recently when we landed the fourth pick, when we had the worst odds, when they had not changed the odds of landing the number one pick. So I made a commitment, and I'm going to stick to it. I'm going to turn off social media. I'm going to turn off all my posts, and I will not be watching the lottery this year. I will just be waiting for your text, and let's see what happens, man.
Oh man, I don't think I have the strength to do that. I'll definitely be watching, and I'll shoot you a text as soon as I know.
Number one pick, Jason. That's what I want the text to say. All right, guys. Welcome once again to This Week in Knicksland. This particular episode, we're going to do it just a little bit different. So we're going to do a little bit of a recap of the season, not into details, but actually what we're going to do is that we're going to pick a game of the year, just the game we felt was the strongest. We're going ahead and pick the play of the year. There was a lot of highlights. It was a long season. And we're also going to give grades to our prospective players. So being that this has been such an up and down season with tough losses, growing pains for our young players, and, winning so little games, Jason, it's kind of hard to pick a game of the year for me.
Definitely.
In my opinion, the game of the year has to be in a win, of course, has to come in a winning situation. But in this particular season, I think that the game of the year should go to the win we had against Milwaukee on December 1st. I mean, the Bucks eventually ended up having the best record in the NBA. So beating the number one team in the league for me was huge. I would say that it actually gave the guys a lot of confidence, and they showed that. They competed, hard out there. And I think that with a few additions to the team, we can certainly, and that's the hope, be a playoff team.
Definitely. That game was impressive one for sure. The NBA is a league where any team can be beat on any night,
right.
but beating the best team in the league is never a bad thing. Milwaukee dominated this year. They killed the West, they killed the East, and this is something definitely you can build off of.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
And on top of the fact that the Knicks had two signature moments in that game, I don't know if you remember.
I do.
Moody's game time three to force it into the overtime.
Yep.
As well as Hezonja's posterization of the Greek Freak, a defensive player of the year contender.
Yeah,
this guy,
yeah. I think it was a very, very exciting play-wise game. Like that play was very emotional. The Garden went crazy. Yeah, so it was an overtime win, Jason, 136-134. It was our highest output for the seasons. I mean, tons of contributions. Moutier had a team high 28 points. Hardaway was still on the team, Jason. He added 21 points. Kevin Knox probably had one of the best performances he's had as a rookie. He added 26 points, a 9 for 20 shooting. And our defense, we were just flowing as a unit. We were forcing turnovers. We actually forced 16 turnovers that game, allowing the game to stay close. I mean, such a high power offense like Milwaukee, they shoot a lot of 3-pointers. So keeping the game close by forcing turnovers was definitely a good thing. I mean, Mario Hezonja only had 2 points, and you did allude about that. You did talk a little bit about that dunk over Giannis. I mean, it was just incredible. So he was fearless out there.
Yeah, those 2 points were probably the most exciting 2 points that we had in that game.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, and I agree that December 1st game against the Bucks is probably the game of the year. But I'm personally nominating as a close second the March 17th win against the Lakers at home. You remember that?
Yeah, the win against the Lakers for sure.
And speaking of Hezonja, you remember that block
right at the end? That block on LeBron.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, exactly. In the final moments, he and the Lakers are a true rival when it comes to franchises who are historic and
historic franchises, right?
And plus we're going up against LeBron, man. Come on, that was dope.
Anytime we can beat LeBron, and LeBron wants to come into the Garden and show out, so he definitely didn't want to leave with a loss. And we ended up beating the Lakers that day, so it was a very, very good game. I do agree.
All right, yeah. So let's move on and talk about the play of the year. A lot of plays, like you said, it's a long 82-game season, but do you have any ideas of what you're thinking about for play of the year?
A very long season, hard to pick just one play. I mean, I think we've narrowed it down to about 5 plays, I would say, that were really crucial plays, that were exciting plays. With all the struggles this team has, one thing we don't lack is athleticism, Jason. So these 5 plays are dunks, and we're going to go ahead and go over them. We have 5 selections as play of the year. We have Kevin Knox, incredible two-handed slam over Ben Simmons, which was incredible. We have Trier's NBA debut dunk over the Atlanta Hawks. He had a crazy dunk on his NBA debut. Emmanuel Mudiay had an ultra-athletic fast break slam against the Grizzlies. We had Mario Hezonja, who makes the Knicks bench go insane with a dunk over Marquise Chris. And finally, we have Mitchell Robinson, our rookie, doing it all. He blocks, runs a quarter the length, and then dunks on the Denver Nuggets.
Yep, definitely. I mean, those are crazy. All 5 of them were crazy athletic plays, and I'm totally having a hard time picking, but
it's tough.
Which one are you? Yeah, what are you thinking?
All right, so for me, it has to be Super Mario dunk over Marquise Chris, Jason. For those who don't remember the actual dunk, let me give you guys a little bit of a mental picture here. So Hezonja gets a pass on the left side of the court by the 3-point line around. He drives, he beats his defender, he drives baseline, and then he comes back into the paint. He cocks the ball back and just posterizes, put this guy on a poster. The bench went crazy. Hezonja showed incredible, athletic abilities all year. That's one of the reasons why he's a fan favorite, Jason.
Yeah, and you know what? Chris, he might not be NBA all defense, team member, but he's a
tough player. He's a tough player.
Yeah, he has pride, and he plays hard. And the fact that Hezonja did that, it's not he's not just anybody he dunked on. It was a pretty, decent defender.
And a taller defender too, by the way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that's why I picked that play, Jason. It was just the way it happened, the type of dunk, just how hard he dunked it. I mean, that was, to me, that was the play of the year. How about you, man? Who do you feel, or which of the 5 plays you feel was the play of the year?
All right, so I'm going to go with Mitchell Robinson doing it all.
Okay.
Jokic, who's defending Robinson, sets a pick for Malik Beasley on the perimeter. Robinson decides to switch with Knox, who was defending Beasley.
Okay.
As you already know,
Yeah.
Robinson is an amazing perimeter defender. So at this point, I think people are still underestimating Robinson. And
I don't even think that's that, Jason. I think it's just we're not used to centers blocking threes. That's all it is.
you're right. So Beasley attempts a 3-pointer, and Robinson 7-3 with his long wingspan defends and blocks. He runs down the court. He gets on the ball and dunks it and one. Fast break. It was just amazing, emphatic dunk.
That was an exciting
ridiculous.
play, and it's fresh in my memory because it was one of the last games of the season. So I remember the exact play, and it was an exciting play. It was something. I mean, to block the ball the way he did, and then drive the ball and block the ball, then have the sense to keep going down the court, and then grab the ball and dunk it. I mean, it was exciting, Jason. So it was a very good play, and I think that we're gonna see a lot of more plays like that from Robinson next season.
I sure hope so. All right, Joel. So we're finally at the portion of the show where we're going to give the players some grades, and I'm pretty excited about this segment. I have a lot to say about some of these players and what I think they, can bring or, will bring in the future.
For sure.
Let's go ahead and start with Kevin Knox, Joel. What do you think about him? What grade and what are your thoughts?
Kevin Knox. So Kevin Knox was our lottery pick, and I had tons of excitement when I saw him play in Summer League. He just looked way better than I thought. And, I have to apologize to Knox a little bit. When we last spoke about him, Jason, we were shredding him. I mean, I was shredding him. I mean, he was having a awful season at the time. He was struggling really bad. Since then, he's made some strides. I mean, his final stats, 12.8 points per game, 4.5 rebounds per game, and 1.1 assists per game. But one thing I really, really, Jason, have to give him credit for is for bettering his shooting numbers. It's slightly, but something is better than nothing. He finished the year upping his field goal percentage, Jason, to 37%, and he ended up shooting 34% from the three-point line. So he did pretty much better both of those numbers. And with that said, he needs to improve his decision making. We spoke about this last episode. He needs to improve his decision making. His efficiency is going to have to improve a lot going into year 2. So for me, his rookie campaign, I'm giving him a C for Kevin Knox.
All right. Well, I'm glad you found the silver lining in regards to Knox, because I just can't find it. And I mean, the kid is young. So at one point, I believe he was the youngest in the NBA.
Correct.
And he played like it, in my opinion, mentally and physically. Like you said, we went over his performance, and I don't want to beat the dead horse. He struggled, and if you want to know more, go ahead and listen to our previous episode. But I'm gonna give him a C-, and I feel like I'm being generous.
Wow. Okay. I mean, it's your opinion. I know a lot of fans have him a little even higher than that, I would say, but C-, we're close. All right, man. Right. So moving on, guys. Frank Ntilikina is who we're going to talk about next. Jason, man, what more can I say about Frank's troubles? Yeah. I mean, Ntilikina to me has regressed as a player. I'll call him some slack. He had injuries this season, but he finished season 1 for me at around a C- grade because he worked his butt off every day on defense. But Jason, no matter how good his defense could be, his offense is the total opposite for season 2. I mean, the guy definitely has regressed from his freshman season. It hurts to say, but I'm going to have to give Frank an F. Wow. His shooting regressed. His playmaking, ball handling is just not picking up. I'm not sure if injuries played a role. Word of advice, Jason, that I have, if I can give him some advice for this offseason specifically, is shoot. And when he gets tired of shooting in the gym, shoot some more, my friend, because that's the only way he's going to improve that shot.
I mean, you're 100% correct, Joel. He regressed this year, and it's almost scary bad how bad he is on offense. Sorry. Oh, yeah. And I don't want to beat the dead horse once again. We all know what the issues are with Frank. When he was on the court, he wasn't very good, especially with the ball in his hands. And to be a point guard in this league, you have to be better at everything.
I agree.
especially, like decision making, shots, passes. He struggled with it all. That being said, he did have a few good defensive showings, in my opinion.
Okay.
And for that reason, I'm going to give him a D, on top of the fact that he just didn't have a full season to prove his
That's true.
doubters
You're
right
right.
or wrong. You know what I mean?
right.
So, like, I'm just going to give him kind of a little bit of slack, even though I am worried like that he's just not good, offensively.
I see. All right.
Yeah. So, yeah. And then let's get into Mitchell Robinson, Joel. He's, in my opinion, probably our most exciting, rookie this year, or just player, honestly, period.
Right.
He had an amazing rookie season. So his season was so good that I think he's a favorite at his position to make the rookie team.
I would say so.
Some people were like Aiton, but like we'll see what happens with that.
Right.
And he's gonna get votes even for second team or defensive team, Joel, believe it or not. Yeah, and this is coming from a player who was drafted in the second round to put the cherry on top.
Yep, for sure.
He smashed all expectations, so I'm gonna give him an A-.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Yeah.
like
High grade,
yeah,
but
yeah.
okay.
I understand he struggled offensively, but I think that, he did everything that we could have asked him to do. And there's reports coming out that he's thinking about working on a 3-point shot.
I think those are just reports, man.
I mean, I don't know how I feel about that, but I think he should calm down with that for a little bit. And just kind of, maybe hit the gym a little bit and work on his flexibility. I don't want him to get injured. So
yeah,
how about work on that?
Yeah, probably put on some muscle too.
So yeah, A- for me.
Good. I mean, I think is a little higher than what I think. So I'm going to go with a B+. I mean, what more can I say about Robinson? He had such a great rookie campaign. He needs to improve his defensive awareness for sure, so he stays out of foul trouble.
That's true.
And he also needs to work on his post offense and also a little bit of shooting. But defensively, the guy worked his tail off all rookie season. I mean, he finished second in blocks in the league, and that's averaging 19 minutes per game.
Ridiculous.
I mean, that's just incredible. I mean, the future is very, very bright with Robinson. I can't wait to see him thrive next year. But I'm going to go ahead and give him a B+ just because I want him to improve just a little bit on the offensive side. And that's my incentive to him. But B+ for me, Jason.
Definitely. And imagine what his stats would have been like if he would have played a little more, how about even 25 minutes a game? 25
minutes a game. I mean, do I dare say number one in the league in blocks? I mean, for sure.
I mean, it's definitely a possibility.
Absolutely. All right, Jason. Damian Dotson. Damian Dotson became an integral part of our offense this season as he started 40 games and averaged around 27 minutes per game, so he played a lot for us. He played well on both sides of the ball. He improved his sophomore season for me, shooting 41% from the field and 37% from beyond the arc, which is actually really good. With the right players on this team demanding focus, I think that his 3-point shooting can only improve. I mean, think about bringing in a free agent who's the defense is focusing on, and then him kicking the ball out to Damian Dotson. That's certainly going to improve. And his willingness to defend is what makes him a crucial part of this team, Jason.
Definitely. He's going to be a player that's only going to cost us about $1 million and change.
Yep.
And the fact that he can shoot, he's a reliable scorer, Joel. He's totally built for catch and shoot, and I think that's something that in this NBA now is like very important. He's one of the reasons we won't miss a player like Hardaway Jr. in my opinion.
That's
and
right.
He's going to be, let's say he's even on the bench next year. I think he's going to be an amazing bench player for us. Potentially. I
agree.
Potentially a 6-man. Who knows? But
who knows?
I'm gonna give him a B+.
B+, Jason. I'm gonna go ahead and give him a B-, just because I feel like he played a lot of minutes this season. He could have shown me just a little bit more on the point average, but we're close enough. B- for me, B+ for you.
Yeah, sounds good. So moving on, let's talk about Alonzo Trier.
You have your preferred rookie. I have my preferred rookie. I know yours is Robinson. Trier was my guy all season. I mean, Alonzo Trier had a season full of excitement. He finished the year by averaging about 10 points per game. He actually shot 45% from the field, which is actually really good for a rookie. He also shot the 3-ball pretty well, and I think we haven't talked about that. He shot the ball at 39% from the 3-point line, but he actually had 132 attempts. So it wasn't like he wasn't shooting the 3-ball. Definitely a great rookie campaign for the player. I think that, a player that went undrafted, if the draft was held today, he would definitely be a first-round pick, Jason. Trier, he just held his own out there, constantly just beating guys off the dribble. That's something I really like about him.
Yeah.
I think he can be a little bit more active on defense. And I think that he needs to learn to, pretty much to find the open man. That's something that he forgets sometimes. He over dribbles, I would say. Yeah. All in all, I am going to go ahead and give him a B-, and that's going to be my final grade for him for this season.
Yeah, Joel. B- sounds right to me. Okay. He had a good rookie season. He has his weakness like most, young players, but he showed that he can hang in the NBA. Not only did he hang though, but he took over in certain spots, and he was definitely exciting to watch when he got hot.
Yeah.
And I mean, like you stated, if we had a redraft today, he would definitely be a first round pick. So B-, that's actually right on the head.
All right, guys. So we're going to go ahead and analyze Dennis Smith Jr., Jason. What were your thoughts? How do you feel about Dennis Smith Jr.'s season?
Yeah, so Dennis Smith Jr., he had a small sample size with the Knicks. True. And that's something that, we have to keep in mind. But he definitely showed flashes of being a potential primary playmaker for us, depending on how things go. If he gets some help on the offensive side, like if he gets someone like KD, that could, push him to even higher, higher level.
I agree.
His assist to turnover ratio rate was not very good. And his shot selection needs to improve. Sometimes he just, wasn't very efficient, but his athleticism, his dynamic play, the highlight reel dunks, all of that coming from a point guard. I love, athletic point guards. So, and I don't underappreciate that. So, and it's going to sound harsh, but I think a C is the right grade for him.
A C. Okay. I mean, Smith finished the season averaging 13.6 points per game and 4.6 assists per game between Dallas and us with the Knicks.
Yeah.
But it's hard to analyze a season of a player who he was hurt both with Dallas and with us for part of the season.
Yeah.
I mean, when he was out there, he did look like a confident guy, someone who's just ready to take over the reins of a team. He just seemed like a floor general. He just seemed like he knew and wanted to direct the offense. But he must work on his 3-point game and also his mid-range game for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but he showed incredible promise. Definitely someone who, I would love for him to be part of our future. Depending how free agency goes, maybe with a potential star, like you said. I mean, who knows how good he could be if he's, dishing the ball and sharing the ball with other stars. I mean, overall, I'm going to go ahead and give him a C+. For me, if he could stay healthy next season, that would be a plus since he's been hurt. But for me, it's actually going to be a C+, Jason.
All right, Joel. So moving forward, let's talk about Kadeem Allen, a player I find very interesting, and I believe his future may be linked to Frank Ntilikina's.
Okay.
But outside of that, let's talk about his season with us. What do you think? How do you feel about him?
So Kadeem Allen signed a 2-way contract with us in January, and he appeared in 19 games. He averaged about 9.9 points per game and 4 assists, and he did play in limited minutes, so that's actually not bad. Yeah. He definitely showed flashes out there. I mean, we do have a cluster of guards, so depending on what happens in free agency, like you alluded to last episode, Jason, it all may come down to what Frank does. Yeah. And that's going to determine his future of either us keeping him, on the team or sending him back to the G League or anything like that. I'm going to go ahead and give him a C. I didn't see much from him when he was out there. He seemed like a decent player. So depending on what happens with Frank, we'll see if he'll be on the team next year. So it's a C for me, Jason.
Yeah, I mean, Allen showed that he's a good 2-way player. Yeah. I think he kind of similarly to Dotson. I feel like he played good defense, and on offense he is a lot better than Frank. And I hate that I'm always comparing him to Frank, but I feel like those two players are just very redundant, to have the same player.
Right.
But some pundits are making the case that Frank is expendable, and it's because of Allen. So this is not just me, just randomly talking about this. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people. He is on the older side, though, Joe. He's 27 years old, so he may be kind of at his peak.
I think so.
You know what I mean? But I think he performed well and did everything that he was asked to. The fact that we're even talking about him means that he impressed, the coach, and he impressed all of us. So I'm going to go ahead and give him a B-.
Okay. A little high, I would say, but yeah, B-. Yeah. All right. So moving on here. Let's go with Noah Vonleh. Jason, what are your thoughts? How do you feel about him? How do you feel about his season?
Yeah. So Noah Vonleh, he was by far the most difficult player for me to assess. I just it was just I'm gonna have to give him like an incomplete grade. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but like in college,
Yeah.
when you don't see, when you don't attend classes enough
Yeah, you
or
don't
whatever,
perform well
yeah,
enough. Yeah.
or you get you didn't finish the final project, you get incomplete, and so you do that. I just think that Vanley, he had such a up and down season, and like he changed the player, like the way he played, everything just changed after the trade with for the
Oh
Porzingis
yeah.
trade.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I'm having a hard time. I'm gonna defer to you because like I don't know what I'm gonna give him the incomplete. I just don't know.
Well, I think things took a change for him after the Cantor release because actually not that. I take that back. A change happened when we started giving him more minutes than Cantor. So his role all of a sudden went up and his production went down. So I think that's what's the problem. And he appeared in 68 games for us. So he did show me something out there, Jason. He's a very tough player. He's gritty. He seems fearless. He seems like a player who fits right with the New York culture.
Yeah.
I think I want him back, hopefully, at the right price. He finished the season with 8.4 points per game and 7.4 rebounds per game.
Yeah.
The only thing is that, Jason, he averaged 25.3 minutes per game, and the production could have been better for sure. I think he started out really hot. He started off being very aggressive in the beginning. And like I said, as his role grew, his performance just started to diminish. So for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and give him a C plus, Jason. So I think C plus is where I see him at. I think he could have done a lot more better if he would have showed up at some games.
Yeah, definitely. And I will admit, I was always very impressed by his rebounding. And alongside Robinson, I think they actually make a good, combination because Robinson sometimes he doesn't he likes to box out, and then Vonleh comes and cleans up. And
Correct.
I feel like they did a really good job at that. But moving on, let's talk about one of our favorite players, Super Mario.
Super Mario Soya, Jason. Mario is definitely a fan favorite. I mean, he averaged like a good amount of highlight plays for us this year. Highlight plays from dunks to alley-oop passes. He ended up the year, which is kind of crazy, playing the one for us, and he recorded the only triple double that a Knick recorded this year. So
I loved it.
I mean, that was really exciting. Still only 24. Still has a lot of room to improve. I know he's gonna demand a fairly affordable contract, so I think there is a big chance that we can bring him back, and I think that he's excited. I think he wants to be in New York. He seems like he loves the city. So I'm excited to bring him back. I hope we can bring this player back. I'm going to get ahead and give him a B plus, just because I think that he showed that he can play hard, and I think that he's going to be a player that can definitely improve.
Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna agree with you. I think B plus is, right where he should be at. He, in very limited time, by the way, showed us that he can contribute to the team.
Oh yes, for sure.
He is a very streaky player, and but he stepped up when his name was called. He definitely is interested in signing with us. I've actually read a report from Steve Popper, of Newsday, reporting that Hezonja is actually talking already about his future with the Knicks, with the front office. He wants to stay. And you know what, Joel? I'm going to say something that may sound a little crazy, but he showed me that he could fit in any type of lineup. He can even fit in a lineup, loaded with stars like Durant and Kyrie.
Yeah, for sure. I think that you're hitting it right on the money. Like he seems like he's willing to take any role. And I think that someone who's like that, who's willing to take any role, who's willing to come off the bench, who's willing to, have decreased minutes, like, because he did have a period of time this year where his minutes were very limited. Coach wasn't playing him for a while, and then we had injuries towards the end of the season. He did show us something, so I completely agree. So a B plus for both of us. All right, guys. So the segment is almost over, and our final topic in this particular segment, we're going to go ahead and pick a Knick of the year. A lot of players to pick from, of course. However, two players, in my opinion, stood out from the entire team. They were consistent all year round. I think that they both played better than all the other players. So that nominated came down to two players, Jason: Mitchell Robinson and Damian Dotson, for their consistent play. So let's go ahead and you can tell me who you feel was the Knick of the year.
All right, Joel. So I'm going to go ahead and pick Mitchell Robinson, and I know this is probably obvious for most people, but
For sure, yeah.
I think that Damon Dawson had a very good season and he should get a lot of credit for what he did. But Robson has to be the choice.
For sure.
If you've been paying attention, you're aware of all the stats, all the accolades, all the records that he set, defensively. There are legit conversations being had about Robinson being rookie of the year. So it's hard to not include him or not select him. And
Correct.
no doubt about it, Mitchell Robinson, Nick of the Year.
Yeah, I mean, you're right about that. I think definitely he has the potential of getting some votes for Rookie of the Year. I don't know if he's going to get a lot. I mean, Trae Young and Doncic were so good. What more could be said about Robinson, though? I mean, the guy, he dazzled us by blocking three-point attempts all season. I mean, he finished with 24 three-point attempts blocked. I mean, Mitchell Robinson averaged 2.4 blocks per game, which was good enough for second in the NBA. And he tied Anthony Davis. And get this, Anthony Davis played 14 more minutes per game than him. So,
Crazy.
I mean, the guy was just playing out of his mind for being a rookie. I mean, Robinson is accomplishing things on defense that are unheard of for a rookie. He recorded at least 2 blocks in 25 consecutive games, and he tied with David Robinson for the second longest streak of the sort since 1973, 1974. Robinson block percentage this season ranks third ever. I mean, that's enough said. I mean, a surprise to say the least, but Mitchell is definitely the Nick of the Year. So Mitchell Robinson, congratulations, bro, man. You are the Nick of the Year.
Definitely. Mitchell Robinson, keep doing what you're doing, bro. We're behind you 100%.
Well, Jason, we've made it to the final part of our 3-part series detailing our team's past, present, and future. I've been anxiously waiting to discuss our future. I mean, I'm nervous and excited all at the same time.
Same here.
A little concerned, of course, because you never know what these free agents are going to do. But I just hope that they can look at the big picture, see that New York City is probably the best place to play, the best sports town, in my opinion, in the U.S. But specifically, since we play in the mecca of basketball, I think that any free agent would be great coming over here, Jason.
Definitely. And you have every reason to be nervous and excited because we've been burned in the past. And, we all know, even though, New York is a great sports town and a great scenario for a lot of these free agents, sometimes things just don't go our way. And also on top of that, it's it's finally that time when we actually have cap space. I don't know when the last time was that we had cap space like this.
Not since 2010, and I know that you've been polling fans and you've been asking around. So what has Twitter been saying? I know you put a poll a couple of weeks ago up in Twitter, and I'm not sure how that went. So how did that go, and who do the fans see coming here?
Yeah, so definitely unanimously, there's one guy that everyone is, hoping and apparently thinking that's going to come, and that's Kevin Durant.
For sure.
And it makes sense. Durant is easily a top 5 player, maybe a top 3 player in the NBA. Okay. There's been a lot of GMs, a lot of media people just saying that, behind the scenes. Around that, yeah, exactly. And a lot of things are supposedly happening in the background. Right. And I mean, realistically, after that though, from the max contract players, there's not a lot that makes sense for us.
That's
either.
Right. And it does have to make sense. I don't want us to just sign any player. It does need to make sense to the team, and it has to fit the team as well.
Exactly. The only two right now outside of KD, in my opinion, and we'll get into this later, but is Kyrie and Butler. Okay. And, a lot of fans though would be, interested or, are rooting for players like Kawhi, but he hasn't shown any indication or desire to come here. And the same thing can be said about Klay Thompson.
I agree. I mean, off the bat, I can take names off this list because I have kind of a little hunch on where I feel some free agents are going to go. I won't mention the ones that I feel we have a possibility of signing. But for example, Kemba Walker, I have this big feeling that the Hornets are just not going to offer him, they might offer him the max contract, but he might be attracted to a destination like Los Angeles. Different, big market. LeBron's there, so I think that
change of scenery.
Definitely. And don't get me wrong, he's an all-star. He's possibly a all NBA player this year. So they're not going to get a bum. And I think that Kemba Walker, I wouldn't be mad even if we signed Kemba in a scenario. I don't think that's going to happen, so I don't think I'll talk about that today. But hey, I think he will be heading to the Lakers. Kawhi Leonard. There's two possibilities, and I'm not sure if you agree. I say definitely. Right now, it's about 60-40. 60% he goes to the Clippers and 40% he signs with Toronto. So I think even though Toronto's in the playoffs, I think he's from Los Angeles. Doc Rivers is there. They have a young nucleus. I think that he might be considering the Clippers and a possibility of staying with Toronto. And then finally,
I think those two are the teams. Yeah, I think those two are the teams.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then finally, Klay Thompson. I think Klay Thompson is for sure going to resign. I think the Lakers might go after Klay, some talks, but I still, at the end of the day, I think the Warriors are going to match any contract for Klay Thompson, especially if Kevin Durant is leaving.
Yeah, we're on the same page. So, we can pretty much rule Klay Thompson out as,
Yeah, I think so. I think Klay Thompson is definitely a rule out. All right, Jason. So moving on, I'm going to let you go first. We're going to discuss a couple of scenarios, which scenarios you feel are best for you. So, go ahead and explain your number one scenario and then go down the list to the worst case scenario of what we can expect for this free agency and a little bit of, who we're going to draft.
Yep, definitely. So, obviously there are a lot of combinations and there's a lot of things that can happen this offseason.
Sure.
And I'm going to focus on, what's not what I want, but what I think is realistic.
Okay. That's
because
realistic is good.
And I was talking to you off the air about this, but my process was I would, pick a player and try to find reasons why these players wouldn't come, or like kind of an excuse of that they could give. Oh no, I'd rather be here or I'd rather be there.
I see.
And so you notice though, I have 4 scenarios, and out of these 4 scenarios, they revolve around 2 players, Kevin Durant and Zion Williamson. I think these 2 are the 2 key, players that are going to dictate what we do in free agency.
Okay.
My first and I guess the best case scenario for us would be KD signing, which, obviously.
Correct.
Zion Williamson getting the first overall and drafting Zion Williamson.
Okay.
And then signing another max contract player.
Okay.
And so when I say max contract player, it has to be the right player. And I've been thinking about that for a while. And I know we're going to disagree on this a little bit, Joel. But it's funny because I know there's one guy that you want, and I just for a long time was just trying to find excuses for why he can't come, why he shouldn't come, why he wouldn't come. But I've jumped on the bandwagon. Kyrie Irving, definitely.
And not only a possibility, it's just a way, and I'll explain in my scenarios, but I just think that he fits any free agent we sign along with Zion. I think Kyrie fits, and I think that you agree with that. I'm glad that you finally jumped on the Kyrie train. I don't think he's coming. I mean, it'll be tough to leave that Celtics situation, but anyways, I'm glad that you can see that he will contribute in any situation.
Yeah, and my only concern with him is will he accept kind of like the the second role, the Robin, he has to be the Robin to KD's Batman.
I see.
But we can talk about that later on. And the second max contract player that I'm looking at that I really think that we should target and I think is realistic is Chris Middleton.
Really? So you see the Bucks not signing Chris or not matching any contract for Chris?
Well, here's the thing. The Bucks right now have I believe the 5th highest payroll in the NBA
already. Really?
And already,
that's a surprise.
And they're gonna run into luxury tax issues. One, if they do re-sign him, which I don't know if their ownership group is willing to do.
Okay.
But secondly, they're going to have to then kind of break up or trade some of their assets because they won't have any money to sign depth players. Right
where do they go? But in your opinion, where do they go from here? I mean, they're already the best team in the East record wise. They're in a tough series with Boston right now. But where do they go from here? Because Chris Middleton is their second star or their accompanying star to Giannis. I mean, that'll be rough. I don't see a scenario where he doesn't stay, but I would welcome Chris Middleton here for sure. He's an excellent 3-point shooter and he can open up the floor for guys.
No, yeah, you're 100% correct, Joel. He is basically their best player. Like they would not be able to re-sign anyone who's even remotely close, to him, like in skills. So he is definitely probably going to stay. But I think he has definitely the possibility of joining us if they don't re-sign him. You got what I'm saying?
I see.
if the Bucks don't resign him, then he's like, I think the first team he's coming to visit is the Knicks.
Especially if it's known that we're about to sign Kevin Durant.
So my second scenario is a scenario that I can, see happening, and I'm kind of like scared of it happening, but it's basically signing KD, but not getting that first overall contract. First overall pick. But we will then sign another max contract player.
Yeah,
You get what I'm saying?
I'm not with that. You said not get. Can you repeat that? You said not getting KD or Zion, or you're saying just
no.
Go ahead.
Getting KD,
Okay.
but not getting the first overall, which means no Zion.
No Zion, but still Kevin Durant. Okay, that's
but-
definitely high in the possibilities.
But then signing another max contract player. You get what I'm saying? Like basically KD and another max, but no Zion. That's what I'm saying.
How do I feel about that, Jason? I wouldn't mind. The piece that has to fall into place in this scenario is Kevin Durant's here. Because after Kevin Durant's here, and let's say we don't get the number one pick, so we don't have Zion, but let's say we end up with the third pick or the fourth pick. Are you drafting Morant there? Are you drafting Barrett there to be kind of like a spot up shooter, maybe turn into a catch and shoot type of player, and then play him along our young guys like Dennis Smith Jr. and definitely Mitchell Robinson? I don't see I don't see that as that bad of a scenario. So I mean, if that's the case, we will definitely be competitive, and a second tier star kind of, let's not say a second tier star, an all-star kind of like Butler, I think is what you have in mind. Maybe I don't think that would be that bad actually.
Well, here's the thing, Joe. If we do sign KD, I think we're basically turning into a win now team. Do you know what I'm saying?
If we sign KD, yes, I agree.
If we sign KD, I think that changes everything. We're no longer building for the future. We're building for now.
That is correct.
Now. So at that point, like if we have to trade the first our first round pick for Anthony Davis or future assets, we need to do it.
Because we're in a win now scenario. I completely understand.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that's my second scenario. And in that scenario, Kyrie and Middleton still are basically in contention for that max contract. Right. So it could be KD, Kyrie, but no Zion, and
I understand that.
Whatever we can get for that pick. All right, but so let's move on to my third scenario, which would be no KD, but getting the first overall and then drafting Zion.
All right,
this is not the worst case scenario in my opinion. I think a lot of people would be pretty disappointed with this, but I personally would be perfectly fine with having Zion and building for the future.
I agree.
In this scenario, though, we need to focus on like signing the right players, though. No, we're not gonna max out a player to that's over 30 years old to play with these young players. We need to basically get 1 or 2 year deals, complementary players, but no max 4 year deals for these guys who are just over 30 years old that are not.
That would be ideal. And I think in this scenario is where the Tobias Harrises of the world fall in, where it's we don't get Kevin Durant, we don't get Middleton, we don't get Kyrie Irving or Butler. Let's give a max contract to Tobias Harris because he had a couple of nice years in the Clippers and he's young. I just think that in this scenario, I'd rather go with the rebuild, Jason. Just like you're stating, keep Zion, of course, and build around Zion. So I completely agree with you.
Yep. So, and then I'll move on to my, worst case scenario.
The one we're all dreading over here. Go ahead.
Yeah. The one that, we kind of expect low key, but no KD and no Zion.
That would hurt, Jason.
So in this scenario, we pick the best player available, in my opinion, the draft and just sign players to 1 year deals and continue tanking. I'm sorry to say it like that, but we're going to be tanking for the next few years if we don't get KD or Zion.
I completely agree. I think that's the right move for sure. I think that in this scenario we end up with no KD and with no Zion, and I think we just need to draft the best player available. You're absolutely right.
That's more my 4 scenarios. I'm actually very interested in hearing what you think or what your scenarios are. So go ahead and hit me with those.
Some of them are going to be similar to yours, of course. We're talking about the same players here, but I did it a little different. So you picked best overall scenario. I went with my dream scenario. So
gotcha.
I'm a Kyrie guy, and you know that he's my favorite player in the NBA. He's been my favorite player for a long time in the NBA, this modern NBA. So my number one scenario, which is the one I'm crossing my fingers for, and it's the one that I think all the fans want as well, is we end up with the number one pick and we draft Zion. We sign Kevin Durant and he brings on Kyrie as his co-star. So I think that's like the dream scenario. And this is, obviously Kevin Durant is arguably, you said top 3. I would say he's arguably the best player in the NBA currently right now, in my opinion. Kyrie is definitely a top 3 point guard in the NBA. You have to give it to Kyrie. And drafting a guy at the top of the draft like Zion, he's going to be such an impactful player, and he's going to contribute in so many different ways that I think he's just going to be the cherry on top if we get KD and Kyrie, right? So how could this actually work, Jason? A lot of fans say, well, Kyrie and Durant, they both need the ball in their hands. They're both ball dominant players. But and you said this already. You alluded to this. Will Kyrie take a step back? Will he say, you know what? Let me default to Durant. Let me be his Robin, like you said, right? Well, does he really have to be his Robin? And I think that's where people do not understand or not thinking clearly when it comes to this. So in this scenario, I believe Kyrie Irving does not have to be the number 2 player. So we have player 1A, Kevin Durant, and player 1B in Kyrie Irving. And how does this work while adding Zion to the team? And I'm going to explain that really quickly. I think that the offense has to revolve around Kyrie because the ability he has to break down the defense is unreal. So his ability to break down the defense is going to help Kevin Durant have open shots, and it's also going to help Zion get easy buckets down low. So I think that's the number 1 key. So the offense does have to run around, revolve, and be ran by Kyrie Irving. Will he default to Durant in the last seconds of the game? I believe so. But I think
here's my question for you, though.
Right.
Here's my question: do you think KD thrive spotting up? Shooting, becoming a spot up shooter in some of these, sets that they run, to say, on offense?
That's an excellent question. So for the past couple of years, he's been playing Golden State. So in Golden State, his touches have definitely diminished because they have a lot of stars over there. They have Thompson, they have Curry, and he's probably definitely gets more touches than Durant in that team just because he's the point guard. But his numbers, look at the numbers. He has less touches and his numbers are practically intact. He's averaging exactly the same numbers he was averaging in Oklahoma when he was the number 1 option. So I don't think that's a problem for him. Playing off the ball is not a problem for Durant. He's shown that he's able to play with point guards who are ball dominant because
you're right.
So I think in this scenario, Durant will dominate the ball at times, just like he does in the Warriors. But most of the time, he's going to default to Kyrie, and he's most likely going to have, those last second shots, or, when the shot clock is at 10 seconds or less, he's going to be the guy with the ball in his hands. But I think having Kyrie Irving in this team is definitely going to help all the players on the team. So if you think about it, think about it this way, giving Kyrie the reins of the ball will also increase open shots for players like Dotson, who's an excellent catch and shoot player, and he's turning into a great catch and shoot player. Knox and Trier will also benefit from Kyrie in this team, and obviously Kevin Durant. And when it comes to Zion, he's shown that he's so unselfish in college. I believe even though he was the star in Duke, he's just so unselfish. And I think that his field goal percentage is going to be skyrocket high. I think he's going to average between 15 to 17 points per game.
Yeah, can I tell you something? Can I miss something too?
Yeah, what's up?
I've been, daydreaming about or dreaming about Kyrie throwing lobs up to Zion and to Mitchell Robinson.
This to me is the perfect scenario because we don't give up our youth either. In other scenarios we do give up on our youth. I think that a possible starting lineup that includes Kyrie at the 1. Someone like a possible free agent, and we'll talk about who we can sign if we get these 2 players because we won't have enough money, but a possible free agent or Knox at the 2, KD at the 3, Zion at the 4, and Mitchell Robinson at the 5. I think that's an excellent starting lineup that we can build something with.
I agree 100%. That's amazing lineup. And I mean, how far do you even go with that type of lineup?
I think with that lineup, realistically, we can be between the 1 and the 3 seed in the East. I think we definitely go. We are definitely in the top 3 with that lineup. Especially Boston is going to get weaker, and I think that bringing Kevin Durant to the East just makes the league so much more competitive.
And you want to hear something wild? The other day, I read that Vegas has the Knicks as 5th best odds next year to
win the championship if KD is here. I did see that. I mean, it's a pipe dream, but we can continue dreaming, and hopefully, this is the scenario that comes through. Now, second scenario here, Jason. Zion, KD, and another All-Star. So in this case, I say Kyrie goes back to the Celtics. We still draft Zion. So this is my second best case scenario. We land KD and we have another star or All-Star like Jimmy Butler and Chris Middleton. So Butler has been talked a lot about as being an overrated player, but if you look at the numbers, Butler is actually one of the best defenders, on ball perimeter defenders in the NBA. He can also create his own shot. So if him and KD are together, he's going to forget that role that he has in Philadelphia, that he needs to be the man, or that he had in Minnesota, or that he had in Chicago. So now he's defaulting to KD. We keep Dennis Smith Jr. here. So Dennis Smith Jr. is going to be an excellent player with these guys, playing with these guys, and he has the ability to play well with Zion as well. So they don't bulk up in the middle or anything like that. So I think that's one good scenario. And then the second one, you alluded to it already, Chris Middleton. So Chris Middleton is an incredible shooter. So imagine a lineup where you have Chris Middleton, Kevin Durant, Dennis Smith Jr., Robinson, and possibly Knox or another Zion. Or Zion in this case. Imagine a lineup like that. I mean, in that scenario, in that lineup, we can certainly be a top 5 team in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, definitely. And I would not be mad with any of those scenarios.
Yeah, man. So my third scenario is the one you alluded to, but it's a little different because in this scenario, which is I think a very, very likely possibility, trade our pick, no matter who it is. So 1 through 5th pick, we trade it. So even if we land Zion, we trade Zion, but we land KD and Kyrie. This is a very big possibility, Jason. I know it's hard to admit, but in this possibility, in this scenario, we are not thinking about the future. We're just specifically thinking about right now and getting championships right now. And in this scenario, we signed KD, we signed Kyrie, and it's going to hurt, but this is the trade that I think would go down. So in this scenario, the Knicks go in and we trade the pick. Like I said, doesn't matter if it's Zion or whoever it is, the 1 through 5, whatever we land, we trade this pick for this pick along with Kevin Knox, Dennis Smith Jr., and unfortunately Mitchell Robinson and future picks for Anthony Davis. This would give us immediately the best big 3 in the league immediately, Jason. Anthony Davis is a 26-year-old proven superstar, not all-star, proven superstar, along with KD and Kyrie playing at their primes. I mean, it's going to be tough to fill out the roster, but we would
that would be my one concern.
That's right. We would pretty much be out of cap space, but imagine these 3 together. I mean, it would just be amazing if management attempted or tried to make the right moves here. However, we can practically try to do what Miami did, try to sign some veteran players for less money, ask players to structure their deals differently, and we can have kind of like the same scenario that Miami had in 2010, and also what the Warriors have been trying to do these last couple of years with so many stars on one team. So I'll tell you some cons though, and of course, cons in this scenario, it's just going to be hard losing Smith Jr. and Robinson. I think they're both going to have excellent NBA careers. Also, Anthony Davis is very, very injury prone, Jason. So him staying healthy has been a problem. So that's the 2 concerns I have with this scenario. I don't know how you feel about it.
No, man, you're bringing the fire. I'm not gonna lie, man. That would be ridiculously that would be probably one of the biggest moments in NBA history when it comes to like trades and and superstars joining. It would be on the same level as LeBron joining.
Absolutely at the same level, because we're talking about 3 of the top 10 NBA players on one team. Same scenario as when LeBron did it. There were 3 of the top 10 NBA players.
So that's fire.
So that scenario, along with the first scenario, are my 2 favorites. And again, it's gonna hurt losing those young players, but just the desire of having 3 superstars, not stars. I repeat that, superstars on the Knicks would just be amazing. Scenario number 4, and this is the one where we land the number 1 pick and no free agents come here. Kevin Durant says, I'm gonna sign with the Warriors. Kyrie goes back, and we say, so if this is the case, we're not going to sign no one. So with this scenario, we sign no max players. I think that we try and sign young players, like young, affordable veteran players, I would say. In this scenario, I think that it's good because we continue to rebuild. In this scenario, we run our offense through Zion. Dennis Smith Jr. runs the offense and develops a good chemistry with Zion, throwing lobs out there, and we can be an exciting young team next year if this is the case.
Kevin Knox maybe Kevin Knox gets some time.
Kevin Knox has now some pressure off of him because now the pressure's on Zion, so he can kind of relax and then maybe have a better campaign his second year. And I think that the development of Robinson and Dotson would actually be great in this scenario. So this would be that scenario. In this scenario as well, Jason, I would not sign any. I repeat, no other players max contracts, 1 or 2 year contracts, like you said in your portion of the segment.
Yeah, definitely. And before we move on to the depth and other signings, what do you think about potentially signing someone like, for example, Vucevic, or kind of like the second tier, like in that scenario when we don't have any.
Wow, man, that would be tough for me because committing to a player that's not a franchise changing player, just good enough to be there's all these players you're mentioning, like Vucevic and even Kemba Walker. Kemba would be in the same situation he was in the Hornets, and I think that Vucevic would be in the same situation he was in the Magic. They both alone couldn't push those teams past the first round of the playoffs. So that's why I would say no to those scenarios, Jason. All right, Jason. So finally, worst case scenario. It's just like you, Jason, the worst of the worst. And as Knicks fans, we always should be prepared for the worst. So the worst case scenario is we don't get Zion and we don't get any free agents, including Kevin Durant. So in this scenario, we strike out in free agency and we don't land the number 1 pick, of course. No max contracts, in my opinion. So that's the first thing I would say to management. 0 max contracts. Keep it young. Keep this young core going and growing. And let's be in the lottery next year. Just like you said, it's not that we purposely want to tank, but we know these young players are definitely not at the right time of their careers to push a team to the playoffs. So we land a top 5 pick in this scenario. We don't get Zion. I say draft the best available player. Whatever fits the team. And best available player at this point. And hopefully we can fill the roster with some 1 year, 2 year deals like you alluded to. And then, next year, possibly be in the lottery or be in the lottery again and continue to grow. So besides all that, Jason, I know that this is worst case scenario. We said best case scenario. I think that I just have this feeling, and I have not told you that, but I just have this feeling that finally, I don't know why. I haven't felt this way ever as a Knicks fan, but I just feel like finally the basketball gods are going to have our back for the first time since we drafted Patrick Ewing. This is my core, and then you can say yours, but I'm going to say my core feelings on what's going to happen, because I know we mentioned scenarios and possibilities. I'm going to tell you exactly what I feel is going to happen. So this is my scenario. That's going to happen for sure, in my opinion, and it's what I feel. Kevin Durant is for sure signing with the Knicks, for sure. Last episode, I know we touched on it a little bit. I said I was 60% sure. I'm about at 90 right now with all the reports and other things that are coming out.
Yeah.
Kyrie, it's going to depend a lot on how this Boston series finishes. But if they lose, which I think they will, and I told you, we don't talk a lot about the NBA in this show, but we did talk about that series earlier before it started, and I told you Bucks in 7. So I'm thinking the Bucks are going to beat them, and I think that's going to discourage Kyrie, and him being a New Jersey kid, growing up, yes, a Nets fan, and that's for another conversation. Yeah. He's not going to the Nets. He's going to go to the Knicks. And we can have that conversation in another episode. And then finally, I just think that it is the time for us to land the number 1 pick. So I don't know, man. I picture it in my head. I close my eyes and I see Durant, Zion, and Irving holding off, white and orange and blue jerseys that say New York in the front, and they're here. So that's my gut feeling. I don't know how you feel,
bro. I get excited just thinking about that. Definitely. I really hope that happens. And we've been Knicks fans since the 90s, and it's been a long time since the Knicks bring us some, I guess, joy. And it's
I agree.
I think it's about that time. So I want to feel as positive as you. I'm gonna be honest, and I'm not as positive at this moment.
Okay.
But I don't think we're gonna strike out. I think what's going to happen is, I think we're gonna get KD, like you said. I'm also very high confidence with
with
that
Durant,
scenario happening.
I mean, there's been a lot of reports from very reliable sources, so not just people talking on the internet like the LeBron time. Remember?
Exactly. Yeah. I remember. And but I don't think we're gonna get Zion I just feel like we're gonna get the 2nd or 3rd overall.
Okay.
That's just my feeling. I feel we're gonna get the second overall personally.
Okay.
Just for sure not the first, and I hope I'm wrong. But
Okay.
I see us Ja Morant or RJ Barrett coming over.
Okay.
But the good news is though I do see us signing another max contract player.
Along
It
with
might not
KD.
be
Okay.
yeah, exactly, along with KD. It might not be Kyrie though. I think it's something like Tobias. He is a New York kid. I don't know if you know. Well, he's from Long Island.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also Kemba. I don't think he's gonna come, but I think we're gonna sign someone like that. Maybe even Middleton if the Bucks can't afford. Or they just decide that they can't afford to sign him. But I think we're gonna have that. Those two superstars or two elite players with no KD though. Unfortunately,
I mean, with no Zion.
sorry, no Zion, no Zion. Sorry,
no Zion.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, I don't know how I feel about that scenario. If that's your gut feeling, man, hopefully you're wrong. Like I said,
Yeah.
I've been, picturing these three here, and let's see what happens. At the end of the day, I think that it's going to be an exciting summer for us. It hasn't been an exciting summer for Knicks since 2010, and hopefully, hopefully this is the year where we sign the free agents, we get the good draft pick, and like the name of our podcast, hopefully this is our year.
Yeah. And I guess moving on, who do you think we can sign that are not like these elite players, but like the depth signings? What are you thinking about that? Like, who are you looking at?
Yeah, I'll give you a couple, and then maybe you can mention some of the ones you feel we should sign, kind of to fill the roster after we get a player like KD and we spend our max free agent money. So after
because we have a lot of money.
We do.
We have a lot of money. A lot of people think that it's just the superstars.
No. We have enough to
plus players.
if we don't go crazy and do that Anthony Davis scenario, we'll have some money to sign some role players. So
exactly.
A couple of affordable role players I think we should get. Seth Curry. So Seth Curry is going to be affordable. I think he's making like $2 million this year, $2.3 million, I believe, if I'm not wrong. And he is going to probably demand a little higher, maybe like 6 or 7 million at this point, because he's shown that he can be a reliable scorer off the bench. He's an excellent three-point shooter. Of course, not like his brother, but he's a very good shooter. And I think he would definitely help our bench. Another player that I see us kind of interested in is Austin Rivers. I know there was rumors a couple of years ago that we might trade for him or whatever. But Austin Rivers is not a bad backup shooting guard. I think that he can come off the bench and also contribute. And one player that gets, I think we could sign for sure, which is going to be affordable, and he was already here, and he's a good 3-and-D guy, is Iman Shumpert. He's not really getting a lot of play in Houston, so for that reason, I think his contract is going to be a little less than what people think, and he could fit right into our starting lineup as being a veteran presence who can play a lot of defense and play along KD and another star.
Definitely. Yeah, I like most of those guys. I don't know how I feel about Austin Rivers, but I definitely think that he will fit in if we do sign him.
Right.
I on the other hand would prefer someone like Danny Green, even though he's a lot more expensive.
He is, but I think we can still have the money for him.
Yeah, Danny Green, I feel like is a very underrated player. At least, he's not like a flashy player, and a lot of people don't really know about what he really, contributes to a team.
And guess what? He's from New York. He's from the New York area as well.
Yeah, there you go. So Danny Green, and this is also someone who you've mentioned. It's funny because he's on our team right now. I really want us to sign Vonleh. I've been looking at at power forwards.
I think Vonleh could be our starting power forward next year. I think that's a possibility, Jason.
He rebounds very well. He shoots very well from three, for a power forward, and I don't see why we wouldn't sign him. He fit very well. I mean, he had a down second half, but he's very familiar with the staff, the players, and he could be a veteran presence.
Force.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Presence,
And I'm going to go ahead and give out the last name, and I don't know if this will be controversial with other Knicks fans, but one player that I can see saying, you know what, let's go to New York. You know who that is?
Oh.
I can see Carmelo Anthony in a Knicks jersey next year.
What?
So I can see a comeback of Carmelo. He's really, really good friends with KD. Carmelo could be kind of that veteran presence off the bench, and he'll be our scoring option off the bench. He loves to score. He's never been known for his defense, of course, so he can come off the bench and be our sixth man next year. Imagine a sixth man as Carmelo Anthony as a sixth man. Like, coming off the bench, which I think that's the perfect role for him in this NBA. The NBA has not given him a fair share. I saw an article the other day which was kind of amusing and made me smile a lot. So the Oklahoma City Thunder let him go because, it wasn't working. They won one more game without him, Jason, and had a first round exit in the playoff.
Yeah, I think he was a scapegoat there, and in a lot of places he's been, people kind of, even here, like, honestly, I think a lot of people wanted to blame him for our failures.
And it wasn't his fault.
Not his fault at all. So I would be so happy to bring him back. Obviously, on the right,
a diminished role.
Yeah, exactly, and the right circumstances and roles. But
that would be such a feel good story. It would be such a feel good story for the team because he loves the team. He loves the Knicks.
Definitely. So, guys, let us know who you think we're signing, what you think you agree with, what you don't agree with. I don't know, Joel, you had anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, guys, send us a email. You can also find us on social media and comment. Send us a DM. Tell us what you feel. Who are we getting and why you feel the Knicks can land these players next year.
All right, guys. In closing, I do want to explain something to our listeners. Although I've had my doubts and concerns about this offseason, I do think it's important to point out the fact that we, as the New York Knicks, are actually in the conversation to acquire max contracts. Something that I think just hasn't been the case for how long now? A decade?
Probably a decade. We haven't been relevant in free agency since 2009 when we attempted to get LeBron and others to come here. So, about that.
So, that alone is proof of progress as an organization, in my opinion. And things may just go our way this way, Joel. And that's what we're hoping for as Knicks fans. But even if they don't, though, as Knicks fans, like I said, we're going to keep watching. We're going to keep hoping. We're going to be following this team, supporting, watching the teams on TV, going to the games, and for as long as it takes until we get this championship. So that being said, I'm ready for the next chapter. I hope that it's a more positive chapter, and I'm sure you're ready for the next chapter too, Joel.
I am. I think that finally we are hopeful, and I think that this is going to be a great offseason. I'm so glad that you guys took the time to listen to our 3 episodes. I'm glad that there's actual fans out there who actually care about the team like us. And like we said from the beginning, this is our year. We feel like every year is our year, and it's kind of like the meaning behind our podcast, like we explained. So thank you so much for tuning in. Please stay tuned for future episodes. We will be briefly touching up on the NBA lottery. So depending on a couple of days, maybe after the lottery, we are going to release an episode just speaking about our position, because that we'll know, Jason, where we're going to pick in the NBA lottery. And also, guys, please stay tuned. We are going to have a NBA draft special days after the draft, just detailing our draft pick and where we feel the team should go with that draft pick, if that's the case, or if we have traded away the draft pick. We'll speak about that.
Oh, I was gonna say, and let us know, guys, if you want us to talk about something. You can just hit us up, send us a message. Hey, talk about this, talk about that. We'd love to get some conversation going between our fans.
Yeah, absolutely. If you guys have any topics that you guys want us to touch upon, please send us a DM or send us an email as well. And with that said, guys, you can certainly follow us on social media. You can follow us on Instagram at Our Year Knicks Podcast. Again, that's at Our Year Knicks Podcast for Instagram. And you can also follow us on Twitter. Our Twitter account is at NY This Is Our Year. Again, that's at NY This Is Our Year for Twitter. Thanks so much for tuning in. Until next time.
Thanks, guys.